Jake Gyllenhaal versus Ryan Gosling. This is for the ladies out there.
The boner-breaking Gosling.
So for all three of you female viewers on this YouTube channel, this video is for you.
Hi, Julie.
And I would like to start by thanking Ryan Gosling because his movies have helped men across the world get laid.
Okay.
And we owe you.
So this is going to be in the same style as the Amy Adams versus Jennifer Lawrence video. So to run through some major movies for Jake Gyllenhaal, Love and Other Drugs, aka Love, Drugs, and Other Stuff.
Who doesn't love Anne Hathaway?
End of Watch, Donnie Darko, Prisoners, Nightcrawler, Southpaw, Jarhead, and Bubble Boy. Ryan Gosling's films, The Notebook, of course, Gangster Squad, Drive, Place Beyond the Pines, The Big Short, Only God Forgives, The Ides of March, and Nice Guys, The Nice Guys. So first off, romance. That's basically comes down to Love and Other Drugs versus The Notebook. Is this really going to be a conversation? I mean,
I'm never going to leave your side.
what is the de facto chick flick movie that you think of when you hear romance? You think of The Notebook.
Everyone thinks of The Notebook. That set a brand new standard in chick flicks.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal can do romance, but he has not done one of the most well-known romance movies in recent history.
That's the only fucking romance movie that there are actually men out there who admit I cried at the end. Not these two, because fucking it wasn't that good, but it set a whole new benchmark.
So definitely a win for Ryan Gosling's romance.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is drama. Drama's interesting. Jake Gyllenhaal has done some incredible performances. Prisoners, Nightcrawler, Southpaw was good. Even Jarhead was one of his early acclaimed performances. Mm-hmm. Ryan Gosling has recently come into the dramatic role with Drive especially. He was hailed for Drive. Place Beyond the Pines and The Big Short, which was in the most recent Academy Awards. So they both have Oscar chops. Mm-hmm. So let's break these roles down. Jake Gyllenhaal has a very dynamic role where he plays a very flawed individual in both Prisoners and Nightcrawler. In both those movies, he's got some weird mental disorders going on. He's got some tics in Prisoners.
He's kind of like almost like a Johnny Depp type, where he never ever plays someone who's just on the level. It's always somebody who's got a tic or a quirk.
It's always some very interesting character. But I loved watching the detective in Prisoners. I loved watching him struggle with things. I loved watching his resolve and how he was a little off socially with the family and how he dealt with things. And Nightcrawler, my God. Oh. What a slimy motherfucker.
Who doesn't want to fucking punch that son of a bitch in the face?
Ryan Gosling, Drive, no one has looked so cool while saying so little, you know? He barely talks, but god damn, that scorpion jacket and Ryan Gosling and
let's face it, there is no one else who could wear that scorpion jacket and look like a man.
Yeah.
Your first thoughts, like, what the fuck
There are
is that?
a lot of nuances to playing a character who says so little, yet is in so much screen time, and Ryan Gosling nailed Drive.
Oh, he did.
Place Beyond the Pines was a very similar role to Drive. So, you know, he kind of stayed a little in his comfort zone on that.
When I watched The Big Short, like, when you see Ryan Gosling's character, he's got that calm, cool collectedness with that snippet humor, just kind of goes with it. Like, that's who I think, like, if we're going to hang out, that's what I would be picturing.
Yeah. So I think drama I'm going to give to Jake Gyllenhaal, mainly based on the fact that he's playing more complicated characters and they're very different from one another. Prisoners and Nightcrawler, two very different characters. Southpaw, very different from Nightcrawler. Jarhead, you know, a little less dynamic, but still very deep, still very interesting. Gosling, you know, he either plays someone who doesn't talk that much or he plays a very, very self-confident guy. So, you know, I'm going to go with Jake Gyllenhaal based on how intricate his characters are.
I mean, I can't disagree. I mean, when it comes down to it, I am going to admit I like Ryan Gosling more. A lot more often. I enjoy his movies more. I think he is a relatable person, and he does a great job. But he is yet to scratch the surface as deep as Jake Gyllenhaal, because there is just a dynamic to his characters that is not replicated in anything that Ryan Gosling has done.
Actionability. This one, again, we have Gangster Squad for Ryan Gosling, which is kind of it's a good action movie, but it's still very much an action movie. Drive had a lot of action, not traditional type of action, but there's like a lot of gory, gritty action.
Done without the wrist slitting.
The Nice Guys actually, the Nice Guys actually has a fair amount of action in it as well, mixed with its comedy. Whereas Jake Gyllenhaal, End of Watch, is a very gritty police action movie. Prisoners has some action, not a ton. Southpaw, if you count boxing. Jarhead, not as much as you'd expect, but it has action. So who are we going to give action, the portrayal of an actionability to?
Well, I would say neither one of them have what you'd consider a traditional action movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Gyllenhaal
Prince of Persia.
but, I mean, come on. Anything that is based off a PlayStation video game from, like, 1998, that's a fucking horrible idea.
Yeah.
And we're going to do Jake a favor and forget that exists.
So, actionability, just based on the movies that contain a lot of action for each one, I'm going to favor Jake Gyllenhaal. I love Drive. I think Drive is easily tied or might be number one on this whole list. Comedy ability is basically Bubble Boy for Jake Gyllenhaal versus The Nice Guys for Ryan Gosling. One of those is a joke movie. One is a movie that's actually pretty good with Russell Crowe. That's a clear winner.
Yeah, I think there's a certain art to being able to bring comedic value
There is,
to
absolutely.
movies that aren't comedies.
I don't know. To be fair, I think Jake Gyllenhaal overall is a more dynamic actor than Ryan Gosling, but I don't think he could combine comedic elements as well as Ryan Gosling. So if you're going to have a movie with some quips in it, like The Big Short, for example, I think Ryan Gosling can play The Big Short as his character far better than Jake Gyllenhaal could. But he's never really mixed that comedy. He's pretty much always completely drama. And Ryan Gosling can really mix it. Like The Nice Guys was impressive, you know? He was goofy, but when the serious scenes came, you know, we already know he has that ability. So he mixes them very well. So the last one is overall filmography. These two actors are very close to each other. You know, I don't really consider Gangster Squad to be at the same league of most of Jake Gyllenhaal's, like End of Watch, Donnie Darko, Prisoners, Nightcrawler. Gangster Squad, it's more of an action movie. It can't really, I don't think it holds up quite as well. Drive is incredible. Place Beyond the Pines is like a lesser Drive, but it's still good. The Big Short is great. Only God Forgives, the Ides of March, and The Nice Guys in its own way is a very good movie. You know, if you're looking for that comedy, that buddy feeling.
I think what this is really going to boil down to, it's very similar to what you were talking about with Jennifer Lawrence and Amy Adams, that it's about, you got Jake Gyllenhaal who's doing kind of like what Jennifer Lawrence is doing, but better, where he's going after those blockbuster roles, those depth character.
He's in the middle. Are you saying he's going completely drama?
No, what I'm saying is he's going for those character types that are eye-grabbing and award-grabbing. Yeah. Whereas Ryan Gosling, to this point, has been floating in that middle space between...
I would agree with that, but I would say that Jake Gyllenhaal is more in the center than Jennifer Lawrence, because a lot of his Oscar roles, like Nightcrawler might have been a very Oscar-based role. Like, he's playing a very in-depth character. But Prisoners and End of Watch both have, you know, a fairly decent blockbuster appeal to them. You know, End of Watch just follows your cop dramas.
I'm not saying he's not in those, but it's his characters.
Yeah, his characters are deep. But I think he's putting his deep characters in movies with a decent amount of appeal. It's not like he's picking Winter's Bone, or Silver Linings playlist. He's picking movies that retain a lot of interest. Maybe with the, Nightcrawler was different. It was very ambitious. But Ryan Gosling is picking more blockbuster movies, I think.
Small fact. A lot of people have boned to The Notebook. Very few people have boned to Winter's Bone.
Very deep.